Cody, the videographer, and his infamous hairy leg are not here. We have an improved headset with a slightly better microphone. We have fiddled with the lighting. Hopefully there are tiny technical improvements in this. So it's time to see if we can record an episode of Want to Know Why? Ask How. Howard. The Humongous! This week, Forbes Magazine shocked us by naming Vladimir Putin, head of Russia, as the most powerful man in the world, thus applying a slap in the face and a drubbing in the behind to Barack Obama, the President of the United States, who it demoted to number 2. How did this extremely expert and unbiased judgment that Vladimir Putin is now more powerful in world affairs than Barack Obama come about? Was it done through objective, through a journalistic, integral means? No, it was done by Forbes Magazine. Well, Forbes Magazine is impartial. Forbes Magazine is one of the greatest expert magazines on financial affairs on the face of planet Earth, isn't it? Forbes Magazine is not going to mess around. It's not going to play politics. Or is it? Who does it belong to? It belongs to Steve Forbes. Does Steve Forbes have a party affiliation? You bet. He's a Republican. Not only is he a Republican, he has run as a Republican candidate for president twice. There is a sturdy Republican commitment that's been in place for 6 years to utterly savage and destroy Barack Obama. Is Steve Forbes possibly a part of that cabal? You bet. He confesses it in the pages of the very issue of Forbes that puts Vladimir Putin on the cover as the most powerful man in the world and lifts a finger in the face of Barack Obama. What does he say? Barack Obama took office, he says, deliberately to dismantle America's global power, to humble America and lower it into the dirt in the realm of international affairs. Why? Because Barack Obama had only one goal on taking over the White House: to socialize the United States, to turn this into a land of socialist slavery. That is the unbiased opinion of Steve Forbes, who proceeds with total journalistic integrity and an unbiased perspective. But hey, have we seen this kind of bias dismantling presidents before? Well, in my youth, we had an anti-war movement. It was the 1960s and the 1970s. We were very opposed to the war in Vietnam. We held our president, Lyndon Johnson, to account for that war. And we, I mean young Democratic kids who were Democrats like me, took our president to pieces. We demonized him. We treated him as an absolute monster. In the process, we disregarded a couple of important facts. Fact number 1, the Vietnam War was being waged on the domino theory. The domino theory was that if one country in Asia fell, other countries would soon follow. In fact, the general who ran the Vietnam War on the North Vietnamese side was working for a dictator who had been trained by Stalin himself. That dictator was willing to sacrifice as many lives as it took on the battlefield and to starve as many people as it took to turn North Vietnam into a socialist dictatorship of the worst kind, a totalitarian dictatorship in which people did live, for all practical purposes, in slavery. The generals behind North Vietnam's win in the Vietnam War were willing to sacrifice, and did sacrifice, 1 million lives. If you were one of their recruits, they didn't care if you died. They had no respect for human life whatsoever. Is that the kind of government that we in the United States want to encourage? Is it the kind of government that we want to stand inside and let take power? Is domino theory correct? When North Vietnam and then South Vietnam, or when South Vietnam fell to North Vietnam, did other countries indeed fall into this kind of Stalinist grip? You bet. Take Cambodia. And what happened to our moral press attention, our careful concern for genocide in other countries, once Cambodia and Vietnam disappeared into the hands of the Stalinists? We turned our backs. Those of us who marched in the streets of Washington, and I did, who claimed to be marching because of our concern for human life, turned our back on human life. The story of what happened under the Stalinists in Vietnam and in Cambodia has been extremely difficult to get, even with all the powers that the Internet and Google has placed at our disposal. But it looks like a bloody nightmare. It looks like it was a bloodbath. We certainly know that in Cambodia, between 1 million and 3 million people died in the killing fields. Was the theory, the domino theory, correct? Yes. 1 million people died in the armies of North Vietnam. Between 1 million and 3 million people died in the killing fields of Cambodia because we lost our appetite for the Vietnam War, which had killed 57,000 Americans, 57,000 too many, but we could presumably have saved millions if we had hung in there. Were we right? Were we right to demonize Lyndon Johnson? Lyndon Johnson gave us the greatest safety net since the days of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And without a safety net, a country of entrepreneurs cannot take chances, cannot move into the future, cannot take advantage of the free market, cannot innovate. Last week I was at a party with a capitalist, not just a venture capitalist. This is a major banking capitalist responsible for tens of billions of dollars in investment. And he told me something very simple. In his opinion, Silicon Valley's days are over. Why? Because kids, the kind of kids who start their own businesses in their own garages, want a sense of the kind of security they have when they are under their parents' medical plan. And they don't have that sense of security in the United States anymore. So where are they going? Places like Toronto. Places where the government will guarantee their health insurance, where the government will guarantee their health care. Why? So they can feel as if they are still in the security of their parents' homes, so they can go into their basements, so they can concentrate all of their strength and all of their energy on innovation. Is he right? Is Toronto becoming the new Silicon Valley? Is he right? Is America going to lose its creative edge because of our self-destructive arguments about health care, because of our slathering and slashing at each other over Obamacare? We don't know. But the fact is that Lyndon Johnson gave us a safety net. Lyndon Johnson did no more to advance civil rights than arguably almost any other president in American history since Abraham Lincoln, and we trashed him. We Democrats ate our own. Is it a good idea for Americans to eat their own presidents alive? Is it a good idea for Americans to demonize their own presidents? Well, it's far better than the kind of civil war that goes on in the streets of Syria. Debate, no matter how ugly, is better than mass murder. But is it really a good idea? Is it a good idea for Steve Forbes to mercilessly slash Barack Obama? Is it a good idea for the Republican Party to promote lie after lie about Barack Obama? Was it a good idea for my generation to promote exaggerated statement and possibly lies about Lyndon Johnson? Shouldn't we gather behind our leaders and try to solve our problems in ways that are brilliant, triumphant, and creative, and make America shine, rather than turning ourselves into laughingstocks and insulting ourselves in the names of insulting our leaders? This is Howard the Humongous, speaking to you from the future. But it's your job and my job to make. Now, to demonstrate just what a klutz I am by attempting to find the ridiculous and misplaced. There it is! Off button!